Now, let's move on to this. The OUTA Bridge Brigade is coming to an end, and you may have spotted the brigade waving flags and holding their picket signs at various spots around the province. For many years, they've been calling for the scrapping of e-tolls. The campaign drew support from many community members and activists. And now, following the recent announcements that e-tolls would indeed be scrapped, OUTA is holding a victory celebration. Gule is with the Civil Action Group, and he joins us here in studio for that. My goodness, when I realized I was speaking to your organization about this momentous moment, I tried to remember how long ago this moment came where, and correct me if I'm wrong, the institution of e-tolls was a trigger point for the creation of OUTA, wasn't it? Take us back to those years when we've heard about these e-tolls and how the process was put together. There was the questionable tender process, and the list goes on. Talk to us, if you can, of how all of that happened and how it triggered the work being done by OUTA right now.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and to your viewers. Thanks for having me. Fortunately, I was there from the word go when it all started. Yes, the introduction of the system, e-tolls, gave birth to OUTA. Most of the information are in the public domain now because the e-tolls were sneaked into the public domain through the back door, so to speak. There was no consultation. It has since been discovered it's illegal and unconstitutional. But fighting such a huge project that was introduced by government hasn't been easy. Few people were not so optimistic that we will conquer them, but the rest is history now, as they say. But the Bridge Brigade concept, which is the only one now in the country, started a little bit later. It was March in 2012 when we started.
Sure, and 10 years.
Yeah, we've been doing that week in, week out. You know, in the township, they will say, Bekeli Beke. Yeah. We've been doing that unceasingly. And why the scheme has been fought by OUTA under the leadership of Wayne Duvenage, we must give a lot of credit to your normal motorists. They have not only supported us with hooting, flashing of light, screaming, they voted with their wallets. That is what collapsed e-tolls, because you will recall that in order the scheme to be executed successfully, they needed about, if I'm not mistaken, 85% compliance. And it was far less than that. Recently on this channel, the Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, was talking to JJ. He said the compliance was about 50%. That's a subject for another day. I don't know where he's getting numbers from. But your ordinary road users, they rallied behind us. They really rallied behind us, supported our campaign, and we persisted on the bridges with the messages. But to correct your introduction, the Bridge Brigade will continue as we are holding government accountable on various other issues, public awareness, and we're still fighting corruption. But in a short distance, yes, we're going to close the issue of e-tolls banners, but for now, there are other e-tolls everywhere.
Yes. They might not be to do with gantries and the paying of a bill every month, but the concept remains the same. You know, your Bridge Brigade standing there week in and week out takes some doing, because in South Africa, a week doesn't go, it seems as if a week hasn't gone by without there being a news scandal with regards to corruption of some kind. And, you know, it means that the news cycle has to move on so quickly that one hasn't been able to keep the focus on an issue like e-tolls because there was something else big happening. I think at that time we were only getting to grips with the breadth and the seriousness of state capture some 10 years ago as well. So there's a lot that's unfolded since then. But you mentioning the support of ordinary members of the public, do you believe that in as much as it was a trigger for the work being done by OUTA, it was also a trigger for ordinary South Africans to realize that this democracy that we found ourselves in needed to be worked on, needed to be guarded, needed to be looked after more carefully, and it could not just be left to politicians to do what was expected of them. Do you think it was also a trigger for that kind of civil duty, a sort of a reignition of that civil duty?
Definitely, yes. You know, from that ignition in your words, for a very long time, we were used about complaining about this and that, government not doing this, government doing that, which is uncalled for. But the presence of civil societies has brought another angle to our communities, that we cannot just complain around price stands in our offices. People are starting to do things now because we are collaborating with various other organizations, civil societies, on various issues. Recently, we are even involved with the promotion and protection of whistleblowers. And our activities from the bridge have spilled over on the normal protests, although our protests are never violent. I'll give you an example. On Tuesday, the Department of Transport has appealed OUTA's victory regarding ARTO. The case is going to Constitutional Court. We're going to be outside there this coming Friday. The issue of Papita Teokaran is going back to Johannesburg Court. We're going out there. But in the process, it's an educational awareness to ordinary citizens that it's upon you to fight for what is right. We cannot leave everything to the government to do this and that. And more people are starting to believe in civil society. We are bringing a lot of difference. We are not only holding the government accountable, we are creating an awareness regarding various issues that people need to get involved. This is about our country. Unfortunately, organization like OUTA, we need money and resources. That is why all the time we appeal to the community to not only give us appreciation, but to support us. Some of your ordinary law-abiding citizens do once-off contribution. There's no amount that is too little, too much for us. We appeal to community to continuously support us, because we cannot expect the government to support us to fight them. It's ordinary people like yourself that has kept us going, and so far we are sustaining our activities with the little we have.
You've mentioned the next issues that you have kept your eye on, that now that e-tolls has kind of been taken care of, that's not the last of it. Just quickly before I let you go, you spoke about R2 and those court cases as well. But for you, if you had to mention what the next big thing is, the next e-tolls issue that people need to pay attention to and not just scroll past the story on social media, what would you say it is?
You said yourself, in South Africa, there's no day, there's no week that we don't have breaking news. There's so much we can talk about. In fact, although Zondo Commission has been folded, if I may put it that way, that does not necessarily mean the corruption is gone. Look at the lights. Look at ESCOM. We look at water, and OUTA has embarked on water testing. We were shocked and surprised that the water that is fed to the community, we're drinking so much polluted water, and it's unending. It's so many things that we must attend to. It's very difficult to single a single one out, but we are trying our level best to sort of address everything that is in front of you, but there's too much work to be done.
And I'm sure it can feel overwhelming at times. And what do they say? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Bite at a time.
And that's exactly what OUTA has been doing. We thank you so much for your time, and we thank you to you and the Bridge team for keeping those flags flying high, and we wish you everything of the best. That's Ali Gule. He is with the Civil Action Group OUTA, joining us here in the studio. Thank you so much.